They say silence is golden, but in love and life, silence is power. It is the sharpest sword you never swing, Marcus Aurelius wrote. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Sometimes strength lies not in what you speak, but in what you withhold. You could spend hours defending yourself, proving your worth, explaining your side, but every word you give away becomes fuel for others to use. The moment you step back into silence, the game changes. They no longer hear your voice, they face their own regrets. Picture a room once filled with laughter and conversation. You say nothing. Silence feels heavier than a thunderstorm. Those who thrived on your reactions feel exposed, like dancers stranded when the music stops. Silence doesn't just remove sound, it removes illusion. Seneca said, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." That is what silence becomes unconquerable. It isn't punishment. It isn't petty. It is refusing to waste your breath where it is not valued. In that quiet, they finally feel the absence of what they once took for granted. Think of a candle in a dark room. When the flame goes out, shadows stretch, and the void feels overwhelming. That candle is you. When you withdraw your energy, no texts, no explanations, no defenses, they feel the emptiness. They realize they were addicted not to your soul, but to your reaction. Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." Silence breaks that chain. The switch they once flipped no longer works. That helplessness forces them to face themselves, something most people avoid their entire lives. Silence is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the storm that never breaks, but leaves them drenched in regret. When your peace is no longer for sale, you stop being their puppet and become your own master. Say it with me, my silence is power. Sometimes it's not your presence that haunts them, it's your absence. The silence you leave behind becomes a ghost they cannot escape. It lingers in every room, every thought, every quiet moment when distractions fade. Imagine a house once, filled with laughter, footsteps, arguments. Suddenly, it's quiet. The rooms are the same, but the silence is unbearable. That is the shock of your absence. It is not empty. It is presence multiplied by zero, louder than any words you could speak. They expected you to react, expected the yelling, the chasing, the long messages. They relied on the old version of youth, the one desperate to prove worth, but when you gave them nothing, fear crept in. Questions echoed, "Why no reply? Have I lost control?" What if they never come back? Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." By choosing silence, you break the cycle. They cannot twist silence, cannot fight it, cannot control it, and in that helplessness, regret grows. Think of a light switch. For years, they flipped it on and off, and you always reacted. Then one day, they flip the switch, and nothing happens. That's what silence does. It cuts off the power they thought they controlled. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." They crave your old reactions, but silence exposes their poverty. At first, they pretend it doesn't matter. They tell themselves, "You've changed, that you are cold." But if they didn't need you, why does the silence echo so loudly? Why does absence feel heavier than presence? Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Your silence unsettles them, not because of you, but because of what it reveals in them. It holds up a mirror. They see what they lost, what they neglected, what they thought would always be there. This is why your silence is not cruelty, it is clarity, not punishment, but power. You are no longer their echo, or your own voice. And sometimes that voice speaks loudest when it says nothing at all. Declare it with me, my silence is strength. Freedom is not always about breaking visible chains. Often the real chains are invisible, made of guilt, manipulation, and control. And nothing breaks those chains faster than silence. For so long, they pulled the strings. They knew exactly how to provoke you. If they accused you, you rushed to defend yourself. If they withdrew, you chased. If they shouted, you shrank to keep the peace. You became predictable, like a puppet dancing on command. But the moment you chose silence, the string snapped. The puppet stopped dancing. The show ended. Suddenly, they no longer held control. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is exactly what silence gives. You control of yourself. You no longer owe reactions, explanations, or energy to anyone who misuses them. Picture a fire. As long as you reacted, you were the oxygen. But when you step into silence, the fire suffocates. Their power fades because it was never truly theirs. It was borrowed from you, Seneca wrote. It is the power of the mind too. Be unconquerable. Silence is unconquerable. No matter how they accuse or provoke, your stillness breaks the cycle. 8. And without your energy, their tactics collapse. Yes, it feels unnatural at first. You were conditioned to react, to fix, to explain. But silence is new territory. In new territory is where freedom begins. They may call you selfish or heartless, but the truth is, they don't miss you. They miss their control over you. Epictetus reminded us, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Silence is mastery. It is not avoidance, not weakness. It is strength. It is you stepping off the stage, refusing to play the same role, refusing to keep the cycle alive. Every word you withhold cuts another string. Every moment you stay still declares your freedom. And your silence becomes the proof that you are no longer controlled. Declare it now. My silence breaks control. Regret is born in silence. When you step back and no longer feed their chaos, they are left alone with themselves, and that isolation becomes unbearable. At first, they laugh it off. They pretend your absence means nothing. But when the noise fades, when the phone no longer buzzes, reality creeps in. The quiet exposes what they lost. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Yet they never mastered their own mind. They only learned to master yours. Picture a crowded room. People laugh and talk, distractions everywhere. But when the lights go out and the noise dies, the silence becomes heavy. That's what your absence feels like. It's not punishment, but truth. The comfort they once had came from you, and without it, emptiness takes over. Think of a seed hidden beneath the soil. On the surface, nothing changes. But underground, roots begin to grow. That's what your silence does. Regret takes root quietly, unseen, until it overwhelms them. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Your silence drags their hidden truths into the light. Seneca reminded us, "He who is brave is free." Your bravery is in not breaking the silence for their comfort. Because every time you stay still, you protect your peace. Every time you refuse to explain, you'll let them carry the weight of their choices. Your silence is not cruelty, it is clarity. Their regret is not your responsibility. You are not here to soothe the guilt they earned. You're here to preserve your energy, your growth, your peace. So let them wrestle with the truth. Let them feel the emptiness they created. And remember, regret belongs to those who took you for granted. Peace belongs to those who no longer betray themselves. Say it. With me, my silence plants regret. The greatest war your silence creates is not with you, it is the war inside their own mind. When you refuse to argue, refuse to explain, and walk away calmly, the battlefield shifts. They are no longer fighting your words. They are fighting themselves. At first, they put on a show. Smiles, laughter, distractions. But when the lights go out and the noise fades, their thoughts take center stage. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But they never mastered their own mind. They only fed on controlling yours. Now silence leaves them face to face with their guilt and regret. Picture a soldier trained for battle. He knows the enemy, knows the strategy, Suddenly, the battlefield is empty. No one left to fight but himself. That is what silence does. It forces them to confront their own reflection. Epictetus warned, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit. By choosing silence, you step out of the trap. They remain stuck in it. They replay every detail, what they said, what you didn't say, the moment you stopped reacting. Memories loop endlessly, like a record that never ends. This is the war they cannot escape, because the enemy is not you, it is their own conscience." Carl Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." Your silence pushes them inward, but instead of awakening, they panic. They see the selfishness, the manipulation, the truth they tried to bury, and it consumes them. Meanwhile, you are free. You've stepped out of the battlefield. Their sleepless nights, their restless guilt, their endless what-ifs belong to them, not to you. Seneca reminded us, consequence is the teacher. Their suffering is not your punishment. Tit is the price of their choices. So let them fight that war. Let silence teach them what your words never could. Because, in silence, you protect your peace. And peace is victory. War is not mine. Words may sting for a moment, but silence can echo for a lifetime. That is why silence cuts deeper than anything you could ever say. Words can be twisted, denied, or forgotten. But silence leaves no defense, no escape. It forces them to wrestle with their own conscience. Think back to the last cruel word someone threw at you. Yes, it hurt, but over time it faded. Now remember the silence of someone who walked away without explanation. That absence still lingers. The unanswered call, the text that never came, the emptiness where your presence once lived. That silence is unforgettable. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Silence is built on restraint. You refuse to add noise where it is not deserved. And that restraint wounds far more deeply than anger, so they cannot argue with what you did not say. Picture someone throwing an insult. You don't react. You remain calm, untouchable. The insult falls flat. That unsettles them more than a fight ever could, Seneca wrote. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. Silence is that delay stretched into eternity. It denies them the reaction they crave, leaving them alone with their own actions. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Your silence unsettles them because it reveals the truth they've been avoiding. Words are external, they fade. Silence is internal, it pierces the heart and mind." Epictetus reminded us, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." Silence is the ultimate refusal. It's not weakness, but strength. Not surrender, but mastery. It terrifies them because they cannot control it. And without your reaction, they must face the emptiness they created. So let them feel it. Let silence cut deeper than words ever could. Because in that silence, you reclaim your power. Say it with me. My silence speaks louder. Silence is not just quiet, it is detachment. And detachment is where true power begins. For too long they pulled you into their chaos. Sharp word, a manipulative sigh, a cold withdrawal, you reacted, and the cycle continued. But when you chose silence, you chose detachment. And in detachment, you became unshakable. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Detachment is that strength. It is not coldness, it is clarity. You still feel, but you no longer hand those feelings over for someone to exploit. You care, but you no longer crawl. You stand anchored, unmoved by their storms. Imagine standing in a busy marketplace, everyone shouting for your attention. If you react to every voice, you become exhausted. But if you fold your arms and observe in silence, the shouting loses power. That is detachment. Tit makes their chaos powerless. Carl Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose." To become detachment is exactly that choice. You are no longer defined by their behavior, but by your response. Epictetus reminded us, "No man is free who is not master of himself." and mastery begins when you stop letting their moods dictate your peace, Seneca wrote. He who is brave is free. It takes courage to remain silent when accused, to stay calm when misunderstood, to walk away instead of proving yourself. That courage is freedom. And though they may call you selfish or arrogant, the truth is you finally chose not to betray yourself for their approval. Think of silence as a fortress. The walls are not built to keep love out. They are built to keep chaos out. Inside that fortress, you are not cold. You are safe. You are not selfish. You are sane. Anchored people cannot be moved by the tides of another's mood, so let them say you've changed. Because you have. You've become someone who no longer trades peace for chaos. Someone who no longer dances for approval. Someone who knows silence is not emptiness, is everything. Declare it with me. My detachment is power. When silence lingers, regret takes root. At first, they act unbothered, pretending life moves on without you. But when distractions fade, the truth grows louder. Your absence begins to haunt them not with noise, but with weight. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." They never mastered their own mind. They only mastered yours. And now that silence has removed that control, their own thoughts become the enemy. Picture a house after the power is cut. At first, candles give light, distractions cover the dark, but eventually the darkness becomes undeniable. That is your silence. It grows heavier with time, until regret is unavoidable. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Your silence forces their hidden truths into the open. Seneca reminded us, "He who is brave is free," and bravery is exactly what silence requires. You resist the urge to explain yourself, even when fear tells you to, because every word you don't say protects your peace and lets them carry the consequences of their choices. Regret begins not in losing you, but in realizing they lost the version of themselves they only knew when you were near. Your presence gave them warmth.
Ow.
Your silence leaves them cold. And in that emptiness, they replay the choices that led here. Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. You are no longer complicit. You've stepped out of the cycle. Their regret is not your punishment. It is their truth. Let them sit in it. Let them face the darkness they created. Your silence is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is strength." Say it with me. My silence plants regret. The deepest battlefield of silence is the mind. When you step back, refusing to argue or explain, the war shifts inside them. No longer do they fight your words, they fight themselves. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Yet they never mastered their own mind. They lived by controlling yours. Now with silence, they face themselves, and that is the war they cannot escape. Picture a soldier trained for battle. He knows the terrain, the enemy, the strategy. But suddenly, the battlefield is empty. There's no one left to fight but himself. Now that is what your silence creates. Their thoughts turn inward, replaying memories, mistakes, and regrets in an endless cycle. Carl Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." Silence forces them inward, but instead of awakening, they panic. They see. Selfishness lies, manipulation. The reflection is unbearable. They attack themselves with guilt and doubt. Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit." You are no longer complicit. You stepped out of the trap. But they remain chained to it, trapped in a war of their own making. This war leaks into their life. Sleepless nights, restless thoughts, paranoia. They check their phone, scroll through. Old conversations hover over your name, but pride stops them. The war rages on silence versus pride, guilt versus denial, regret versus ego. Seneca reminded us, "Consequence is the teacher, and this is their lesson. Their suffering is not your punishment. It is the price of their actions." You are free because you chose silence. They are trapped because they cannot escape themselves, so let them fight. Let silence teach them. Because the greatest victory is knowing their war is not yours. Say it with me. Their war is not mine. Why does silence wound deeper than words? Because words fade, but silence lingers. A harsh insult may sting, but over time, it softens. Like the silence of someone who walks away without explanation, it's for years. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Silence is rooted in restraint. Refuse to waste words where they have no value. That restraint is what cuts the deepest, because there is nothing to twist, nothing to argue, nothing to dismiss. Think of an insult thrown your way. Instead of defending yourself, you stay calm, unmoved. The insult falls flat. That unsettles them more than anger ever could, Seneca wrote. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. Silence is that remedy stretched into eternity. They cannot provoke what no longer responds. Carl Jung observed, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, and your silence becomes that mirror. It irritates them, not because of you, but because it exposes what lies within them. Words are external. Silence is internal. It pierces the heart. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Silence is the ultimate reaction, no reaction at all. It's not weakness, but power. Not avoidance, but mastery. In silence, you choose peace over chaos, clarity over noise. So let them feel it. Let silence do what words cannot, because in silence, you remind them that absence speaks louder than presence, and peace is stronger than anger. Say it with me. My silence speaks louder. Silence does not only wound them, it transforms you. It becomes a shield of mastery, a discipline that turns chaos into clarity. Detachment is the hidden power of silence. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Detachment is strength. It is not coldness, it is wisdom. You are no longer chained to their moods, their accusations, or their chaos. You choose peace over reaction. Imagine standing in a raging river, struggling against the current. That was you once always reacting, always pulled under. But detachment is climbing onto the riverbank. The storm still rages, but you are no longer drowning. Seneca reminded us, "He who is brave is free." It takes courage to walk away from the stage where you were once performing for approval. Carl Jung wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Detachment is that choice. You are no longer defined by betrayal, manipulation, or noise. You're defined by your discipline. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery begins the moment you stop giving your peace to those who do not value it. They may call you cold, selfish, arrogant. But the truth is, detachment is not a lack of care, is caring in the right way. You care for your peace more than their drama, your sanity more than their approval, your growth more than their control. That is not weakness, that is freedom. So let them misunderstand. Let them say you've changed, because you have. You've become someone who no longer betrays yourself for comfort. Someone who no longer mistakes noise for connection. Someone who knows silence is not emptiness, it is everything.
Nice.
Declare it with me. My detachment is power. Silence is not emptiness, it is exposure. When you no longer argue or defend, you hold up a mirror. And what they see in that reflection is often unbearable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone does wrong, the harm lies in their own action, not in your response." Your silence embodies this truth. You're no longer carrying their guilt or cleaning up their chaos with words. You let their actions echo back into their own conscience. Imagine a still lake. The water doesn't argue, it simply reflects. That is what your silence becomes. They wanted you to shout, to prove them right about your emotions. But silence removes their excuses. It forces them to face themselves on often. They hate what they see. Seneca said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." Silence is that delay. It denies them the fuel of reaction, leaving them with nothing but their own reflection. A person who thrives on chaos suffocates when the noise ends, starves when you stop giving oxygen. Carl Jung observed, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Your silence unsettles them because it exposes their lies, selfishness, and shadows. They will call you cold or arrogant, but what they truly mean is, your silence is making me see myself, and I don't like it." Epictetus reminded us, "No man is free who is not master of himself. Silence is your self-mastery." You resist the urge to explain, to rescue, to ease their guilt. By doing so, you give them the chance, whether they take it or not, to face the truth of who they are. Your silence is not cruelty, it is clarity. It reflects not only their truth, but your strength. It shows them what they lost, and it shows you what you gained: freedom, peace, mastery. Declare it now. My silence is my mirror. Control thrives on chaos. People who manipulate depend on your reaction, but silence starves that control. It is not weakness, it is the refusal to dance in the cycle any longer. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside." Events realize this, and you will find strength. When you choose silence, you take back that strength. You declare, "I owe no reaction, no explanation, no energy to those who misuse it." Think of a puppet on strings. Every word, every defense, every apology, another tug pulling you into their game. But when you stop moving, when silence snaps those strings, the puppet is free, the master is powerless. That is the shift silence creates. Seneca said, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." Silence is unconquerable. They may accuse, provoke, withdraw, or attack, but your calm refusal leaves them powerless. Their fire burns out when you no longer provide oxygen. Picture a wheel spinning for years fueled by arguments, guilt, and manipulation. Then one day, you step back. The wheel slows, wobbles, and stops. Silence breaks the cycle. And when the cycle ends, so does their control. Epictetus reminded us, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Mastery is silence in the face of provocation. It is strength and restraint. They may call you selfish or cold, but in truth they miscontrol, not you. They regret losing a puppet, not a partner. So do not defend yourself. Do not explain. Your silence is the proof. Every word you withhold is another string cut. Every pause is another victory. Silence is not emptiness. It is liberation. Say it with me. My silence breaks control. Regret always begins in isolation. When you withdraw into silence, they are left with themselves. For many, being left alone with their own thoughts is the hardest prison. At first, they act unbothered. They'd laugh, distract themselves, tell. Others, they don't care. But when the noise dies, when the distractions fade, silence grows heavy. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Yet they never learn to master their mind, only to control yours. Now their own thoughts turn against them. Picture a house after the electricity is cut. For a while, candles keep the darkness away. But eventually, the shadows win. That is your silence. It seems harmless at first, but in time it becomes undeniable. Every memory, every choice they made, replays like a haunting echo. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Your silence forces their hidden truths into the light. They realize it wasn't indifference. They lost the comfort, the peace, the stability you once gave. Seneca reminded us, "He who is brave is free." And bravery is what silence demands of you. Brave enough to resist the urge to break it, even when tempted to ease their guilt. Because every time you stay quiet, you protect your peace while they carry the weight of regret. Regret belongs to those who wasted what they had. Peace belongs to those who stop abandoning themselves. Your silence is not cruelty, is truth. And truth always arrives whether they are ready or not. Declare it now. My silence plants regret. The loudest war is not between you and them, it is the war inside their mind. When silence replaces conflict, they are forced to battle themselves. And that is a war no one escapes. First, they pretend not to care. They post, laugh, distract themselves, but in the quiet, their thoughts take over. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Yet they never had mastery of their mind over yours. Now, stripped of control, they face guilt and regret. Imagine a soldier trained to fight an enemy. Suddenly, the battlefield is empty. There's no opponent, only his own reflection. That is the torment silence creates. Carl Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Silence pushes them inward, but instead of awakening, they panic. They see their selfishness, lies, and failures staring back at them. Epictetus warned, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit. Your silence breaks that complicity. You've stepped out of the trap." But they remain in it, chained to their own conscience. Their mind replays memories like a broken record, the things they said, the way you stopped reacting, the void your silence left. Seneca reminded us, consequence is the teacher. And their consequence is sleepless nights, restless guilt, and endless what-ifs. Meanwhile, you walk free, anchored in peace. Their war belongs to them, not you. So let them battle their conscience. Do not break the silence to ease their pain, because in silence, you prove the greatest truth there. Chaos is theirs, not yours. Say it with me. Their war is not mine.